you have been misled. If you study by highlighting, rereading your notes, or passively watching lectures, you're using methods that are designed to make you fail. These techniques focus on recognition rather than recall. Your brain merely recognizes the information, but it doesn't retain it for future use. That feeling of hitting a mental wall during an exam? That's a sign of your passive study methods failing you. But what if I told you there is a science-backed system, developed by a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, that can radically improve how quickly you absorb and retain complex information? This system turns passive consumption into active creation, enabling you to internalize and recall information with remarkable speed and confidence. This isn't about speed reading hacks, it's a fundamental shift in mindset. This is the Feynman Technique, and today, we will break it down into 4 simple steps that can help you memorize 100 facts in an hour and potentially change your grades forever. Step 1. The myth of rereading and the core principle. The first step is to understand why rereading is a trap. When you reread, your brain confuses familiarity with understanding. You might think, I know this, but once you close the book, you may struggle to explain it. This is the difference between knowing that the forest exists and being able to draw a map of the trees. The core principle of the Feynman Technique, named after physicist Richard Feynman, is straightforward. You only truly understand something if you can explain it simply to someone else. Action: the blank paper test. Identify the concept. Choose a specific topic, equation, or idea you want to memorize. The brain dump: take a blank sheet of paper or open a new document. Write the title of the concept at the top. Explain it now without looking at your notes or textbook. Write down everything you currently know about that concept. Explain it as if you were addressing a middle school student. Use simple language, diagrams, and analogies. This exercise will create a knowledge gap. As you write, you will encounter obstacles and realize where your understanding falters. This moment of struggle marks the beginning of true learning and is the most powerful step to enhance your recall. Step 2. The Feynman Loop, identifying the gaps. After completing the blank paper test, your next task is to use your study materials as a targeted missile rather than a shotgun blast. Action: targeted review / The red pen: go back to your explanation from step 1. Highlight or circle the areas where you had to pause, oversimplify, or use vague language. These indicate your knowledge gaps. Go back to the source. Focus only on the sections in your textbook, lecture notes, or other reliable sources that address the specific gaps you've marked. Avoid rereading the entire chapter. Instead, concentrate on finding the missing puzzle pieces. Refine the explanation. After gathering the necessary information, return to your original blank paper and fill in the gaps. Refine your explanation until it flows smoothly, using precise terminology when needed, while still maintaining simplicity. This step promotes active recall. Rather than passively absorbing information, you actively search for specific details to resolve identified problems. This targeted approach is the key to transferring information into long-term memory. Step 3. Simplify and analogize. This step serves as a retention booster. If you can create an analogy, you will be much less likely to forget the concept. It encourages your brain to connect new, complex ideas to something familiar. Action: teach it to a child or a rubber duck. The simplicity test: review your refined explanation. Can you remove any jargon without losing the essential meaning? Replace complex terms with simple, everyday language. If you must use a technical term, ensure you define it clearly using a metaphor. Develop an analogy. Create a straightforward analogy for the concept. For example, explaining compound interest could be likened to a snowball rolling down a hill. It grows larger and gains momentum without additional effort from you. Verbalize. Verbally explain the entire concept from start to finish, using analogies and simple language. You can talk to yourself, a plant, a pet, or even an empty chair. The act of externalizing the information helps solidify the memory trace in your brain. If you find it challenging to come up with a simple analogy, or if your verbal explanation becomes confusing, loop back to step 2. Keep simplifying until your explanation is crystal clear. This is the point when you achieve true mastery. You can shift between complex and simple explanations effortlessly. Step 4. The spaced repetition system. The Feynman technique addresses initial understanding and recall, but we need a system for long-term retention to prevent the cramming crash. This is where spaced repetition comes in. Action. The review schedule. Your brain forgets things quickly, but each time you recall a fact, the forgetting curve becomes less steep. Day 1. Initial learning. Complete the full Feynman process. Day 2, 24 hours later, attempt the blank paper test again. You might struggle more. That's a good sign. It forces your brain to work. Day 4, 48 hours later, attempt the blank paper test again. Day 7, 3 days later, attempt the blank paper test. Day 14, 7 days later, final check. By deliberately increasing the time between recall attempts, you strengthen the memory connection. This systematic review is how you move information from short-term working memory to your long-term memory. You can use a simple flashcard app like Anki or a physical index card system to automatically schedule these reviews. The reason the Feynman technique works is that it turns your confusion into a tool. Instead of seeing struggle as a sign of failure, use your knowledge gaps as targets for your study time. Stop wasting time rereading material you already recognize. Start challenging yourself to explain the material you think you know. Here is your homework assignment. Spend 15 minutes right now on the blank paper test. Identify the gaps in your knowledge, then use the Feynman Loop to address them. If this was helpful, consider subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss the next video.